Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of CEO and Market Expert Interviews. I'm your host, Lucian. Some of you know me as Triangle Investor from X. Today, we are covering Lincoln Gold Mining Incorporated, a Canadian precious metals exploration and development company with assets in Nevada. I'm joined by Paul Saxton, President, CEO of the company, and Joseph Sawyer, President of the company U.S. subsidiaries Lincoln Resource Group Corp and Lincoln Gold US Corp. Gents, welcome to my show. It is great to have you both here.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. When I cover companies for the first time in my show, I always like to start with backgrounds of my guests. So Paul and Joe, tell me more about your background, experience, and how did you get involved in Lincoln Mining? Paul, you can go first.
Okay. I think it's important to note that Joe and I go back a whole bunch of years, and we'll come back to that. But we started Lincoln Mining. It was called Lincoln Mining at that time, back in 2006, 2007. It was trading on the OTC bulletin board, and we put it together. I had been working for a number of different companies before that, and I then decided in early 2000 to go out on my own, if you wish, and put together this company, and it ended up being Lincoln Mining Corporation. So that's how it got started. There's another fellow that helped me on it, and he's going another direction, but that's how it all got going, and it's continued in that regard. I think that our focus has been on having mining people involved in this company to make it a mining company. Joe and I don't go back to years of being in the marijuana business or anything like that. We're miners, and that's what we do best. And I think that we're good at it as we go forward, and we'll even be better after we get Lincoln Gold into production down in Nevada. My background is mining. I won't go on with that. It goes back too many years, but it started out working for a big company, a company called Tech Corporation. And after 10, 11 years with them, I started working in Nevada, effectively in 1981, in open pit heap leaching projects throughout the next 20 years, 25 years, and continued on with us starting out on Lincoln Mining. So I think that the background is there, and that's enough about me. Joe, go ahead.
Yeah, Joe,
Sure,
your turn. Tell us more about yourself, please.
Oh, thank you. Great to be here. And I have about over 40 years of experience in the mining industry. I'm a licensed professional mining engineer here in the state of Nevada. And all of my experience has been primarily in gold and silver. And I've worked at numerous smaller projects. And for those folks that have been around a little while, I've worked for Chester Miller at Glamis Gold, which became Gold Corp over the years. Yeah. And I also worked for the Lundin Group for many, many years at numerous projects. And actually, where I met Paul Saxton was in around 1982, was at the American Girl Mine. And I was the general manager there at the time. We had 170 employees, and it had a surface heap leach as well as an underground mine with a conventional mill. And, it's always been the goal, I think, of Lincoln. And one of the reasons I'm involved now is to put projects into production. We don't want to be explorers and running around just drilling year after year. And we feel we've got two great projects here that, even though they're small, they have potential to grow, and they're economic to put into production now. So,
yeah, you both have great backgrounds. Now we are talking Lundin's, Tech. Those are familiar names, very impressive backgrounds. Since we are covering people first, beside you two, who are the other people behind Lincoln Management and Advisory Board? Paul.
Yeah. Maybe I'll cover that, and Joe, you jump in for any time. I just expound a little bit on what Joe said. We worked for the Lundins back in the early 80s, mid 80s rather, and later 80s, and it was a good education for both of us in terms of working with them. They're extremely professional, the father and the son, who we spent a bunch of time with, and with that in the background. And I remember so many instances dealing with ADOL funding on giving us instructions in how to move, and it was a real positive situation. And I think Joe can say the same thing in that regard. So I guess from our perspective, we've got all sorts of people around us that have got mining backgrounds. A fellow by the name of Ron Netolitsky, who was Mining Man of the Year a couple of times in Canada. He's on our advisory board. And he and I go back years and years and years. We've got Andrew Milligan, who is now on an advisory board as well, who was on our board of directors and just recently retired because he turned 100 years old. Even though he is a bit older, he tremendous background and tremendous experience that we liked, and he's still there with us, but as an advisor at this point. We've got all sorts of other folks that have good background mining related backgrounds, I guess, repeating here, but I think that the point that I'm trying to make is that not only Ron Netolitsky, we had there's a fellow by the name of Henry Evanchuk who's on our advisory board as well. A fellow named Bob Schaefer out of Salt Lake City who's on our mining board as well, as an advisor. And so we've put together a group of people that we think will help us going forward as miners and putting projects into production.
Okay.
Joe, anything to add?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, I mean, we also have, Jeff Wilson, who has helped as an advisor and worked with Lincoln for many, many years. He's now retired, but I actually call upon him on a regular basis for advice.
So full of experience, I see. That's great. Guys, before we dive into the company's projects, I want to hear your comments on the current gold market and expectations for gold prices in the future. Maybe, Joe, you start first.
Well, I guess, given the world conditions, my expectation is that gold price is going to continue to rise. One of the things that I struggle with as an operator, and I mentioned it to you earlier, I am a president of another private company, and we're currently operating 2 underground gold mines as well as a small 150 ton per day mill. So I'm acutely aware of inflation and what it's caused to the cost to mine, and the difficulties of bringing on labor, and all of those things are going to help Lincoln going forward. Being aware of what's going on, currently in not just in Nevada, but in the world along those lines. But so even though the gold price has gone up, everybody has to remember that costs are going up too. And I think overall, though, gold is outpacing those cost increases. So I think you're going to see more people looking at lower grade deposits over time, and revisiting deposits that maybe weren't large enough for operators in the past, or didn't have as much interest. So I think you're going to see more of that.
Yeah, Paul, your short comment on that.
Yeah, it's hard to add to what Joe said, but I think the important thing is that when you can talk to 20 different people in the mining industry that are in gold, and they're going to tell you all the same thing, that it's a commodity that's in short supply, and it's going to get shorter in supply because the bigger mines are being mined out, and it's harder to find these good gold deposits. And that's what's going to be driving up the price as well. And all sorts of things in the world, and I won't repeat those because we all know what they are, between insurrection and you name it. It's all affecting gold, and how governments are going to be treating their currencies. Something that has to back them, and most people agree that gold is the one thing that's been around for tens of thousands of years, right? So and in use for the last 3,000 or 4,000 years anyway. So anyway, that's about my comment on that.
Yeah, and I agree on that, definitely. Okay, what is the company's overall mission and vision, Paul? Tell me more.
Well, I think that when I started Lincoln back in 2000, well, even a little bit before that, it was always my ambition, myself and with people around me, to build a nice company that would be gold miner, sticking with precious metals, as opposed to going to some of the base metals like lead and zinc and copper and so on, and make it into a nice size little company. And we're in the process of getting that done. There's been a number of hills we've had to climb, and we've had some hiccups along the way, but at the end of the day, we're moving forward. I think we're moving forward with greater speed at this time. Joe came and joined us. One of the big things for me is Joe came and joined us about 3 years ago, effectively. And with his background, we feel that we've got the management and the ability to build these operations with the best expertise that's available for these size of operations in Nevada. And with the people that we've got surrounding us, and the people that we know in Nevada, the people that we know in the mining industry. I mean, I don't think there's anybody in Nevada that doesn't know of Lincoln and Joe and myself and the backgrounds that are there. So I think all those items make a difference in us being successful and moving the company forward into a mid-sized producer. And that's always been the aim. We're starting right now with 2 smaller projects, as Joe said, but the intent is to grow that into something that's going to be producing substantially more than what we're already planning at this point. So,
yeah,
Joe.
Got it. Joe, I have a question for you regarding Nevada. How is doing business in Nevada, and why is it considered mining-friendly state?
So, I mean, we're pretty fortunate here in Nevada in that there are a lot of operating gold mines already in the state. And something I didn't mention previously is I actually worked 15 years for the state of Nevada as a regulator. Mm-hmm. And during my tenure, 10 of those years was with the Bureau of Mining Regulation and Reclamation. And the last 5 years, I was actually bureau chief, and I was responsible for the entire program for issuing water pollution control permits and reclamation permits in the state of Nevada. And I think when I left, we had about $3 billion in financial guarantees. So one of the things that make Nevada a great place to be is the stability. We obviously have political stability. There's stability in the regulations, and then tremendous vendor support. There are world-class mines here in Nevada, very large, big names, Kinross, Barrick, Newmont, Nevada Gold Mines all operate here in this state. So we benefit from that by having those vendors actually here in the state, and not just vendors, but also consultants, environmental consultants, engineering firms. All of those are available to us. And I think, we'll mention a little later on, we've used some top-notch firms, to assist us in the past at our 2 projects.
Yeah. Let's touch on your 2 projects, and they are situated in the Walker Lane mineralization belt. That's a familiar trend, so to say. Can you tell me more about the trend for the people that do not know about it?
Joe, you go for and I can kick in.
Yeah, sure.
So the Walker Lane mineral belt, I guess I have a couple of brief comments. It's over 100 miles wide, and it stretches up and down the western side of Nevada, runs north into California, and then south into Arizona, and even further south than that. So it's a very large trend, and there's been many million-ounce producers, over the years in that trend. And I want to mention about a year or 2 ago, I actually read a really interesting article by a young geologist who compared the Walker Lane trend with the Carlin trend. And some of the things that his report indicated was you tend to see less complex ores in the Walker Lane trend. You see more oxide ore, and you tend to see higher grades generally in the trend in those oxide ores. And for those reasons, he actually postulated that the economics were better in the Walker Lane trend generally than in the Carlin trend. So we're in the right place. We're in gold country, and yeah.
Okay, Paul, I would like to ask you to give us an overview of your project Pine Grove. Tell us more about the exploration history. Give us an overview of the project, please.
Yeah, certainly. But the Pine Grove goes back to the 1860s, actually, when it first was discovered by the old miners back. I shouldn't say old; they weren't old then, but they're people that we recognize as being the people that put Nevada together. And one of the big things was gold mining in the area of Yerington, which is close to the town that we're in. It's in the Walker Lane trend, and it's all there. I think that from our perspective, the Pine Grove is this. When guys like Joe and I go look for projects, we focus on a few things. Infrastructure is important. What's infrastructure around? That includes power, water, people, and so on. What's the political situation Joe mentioned? It's stable. What's its location overall? I mean, we're not up in the Northwest Territories where it's difficult to get things. We're in an area that's got super ability to have things delivered to us and work and so on. So I think that Pine Grove not only has a good background in terms of mining, because the towns around accept mining as part of their life. And as an example, the little town of Yerington, which you're close to, Anaconda Mining was there in the late 50s, early 60s, and early 70s, produced over 2 billion pounds of copper. And that's just when you stand on top of the hill in Pine Grove looking north, you can see Yerington, and you can see where the mining happened in that time. So the things like that made a difference for Pine Grove. It's not just infrastructure, but it's also the location overall. And we were lucky enough to pick up there are a number of different properties that we pulled together to form Pine Grove. The first one was the Wheeler property, and it's 4 or 5 different claims that are situated in our central of where we are in Pine Grove. It was the Wilson's claims that we also picked up shortly thereafter. And then we said, hey, this is a good area. Let's stake some of our own claims. So we went out and staked a whole bunch more claims in that area that we felt would add to the value of this old property. And we now have over 7 square miles. I guess that's 15 or 16 square kilometers of ground that we think has got super potential to grow. In the 1860s to mid 1880s, the folks back there were underground mining high-grade veins, and they produced over 240,000 ounces, grading 1.3 to 1.4 ounces per ton, not grams, but ounces per ton. Yeah, and we are working in those areas, but we're not looking for that high grade. I mean, we are hitting some high grade materials, but overall, those folks worked on underground mining. We're planning an open pit heap leaching type of operation that takes in bigger amounts of material at a lower grade, and that's what we're doing right now at the design of the plant for the Pine Grove. We've only explored about 25% of the property. We think that, we have 220,000 ounces already outlined. We think the potential to go much higher than that is there. The history shows that there's lots of good gold around still. It was even back in the 1860s, 1870s, and through early 1990s, there were 1890s, there was lots of work on the surface, but very little at depth and very little in the side areas. So we think that that's got lots of potential. As an example, company Tech Corporation back in mid 1990s came onto the property and we're looking for 5 or 6 or 7 million ounces, and so that tells you something about the feeling of this area. Now, they left it after a couple of years of exploration simply because they weren't finding the 5 or 6 million ounces that they were looking for. But that doesn't mean that there's not 1 million ounces or 1.5 million ounces. And we think that there's a good potential from our perspective to grow this property into something that's it's got a lot more size than what it is right now. So I think that that's a bit of a history on it. And we've taken it from a number of different properties that were there and pulling them all together to form this nice packed of ground that we think has got all sorts of exploration potential and a great area for an open pit heap leach operation.
Yeah.
What have I missed, Joe?
Actually, I would like to, if you can expand a bit on the stage of the project. I mean, in the terms of resource category, future PEA, etc. What is the stage, and what are the next steps with this project?
Do you want to go ahead with that, Joe? You're going to be running it.
Yeah, I guess, sure. So we do have a PEA. I think it was 2017 was when that was done last. So, we're due to update that. We do have a draft plan of operations that's had an initial review by the Forest Service. I guess maybe I'll just roll into the permitting a little bit. So the level of permitting that was started on this project was actually an environmental impact statement. And the reason being it's on Forest Service land. There was a fair amount of biological diversity, even though it's high elevation desert. We're in a little bit of a mountainous region in the foothills of the Sierra Nevadas. And so there's a little bit more flora and fauna, and we had to deal with bats and different things. But with all that said, we're fairly far along in the environmental impact statement process. We've completed all of the site studies. So all the field work is complete, and almost all of the site study reports are also completed, except for archaeology. We've completed the archaeological field work. We have not completed the reporting. And we currently have a plan of about 18 months to complete the environmental impact statement process. And, the goal would be to kind of run in parallel final engineering while we're doing that final permitting. And I'm trying to think, and updating the plan of operations also.
Okay. Can you tell me a little bit more about the size of the of this deposit? What numbers are we talking here?
Well, right now we've got, as I mentioned earlier, 7 square miles or 15 or 16 square kilometers of area that we are looking at. So the two main deposits that we're looking at right now, the Wheeler and the Wilson, are situated just across hills from a valley from each other, with the potential for expansions into that valley and beyond. It hasn't been explored at depth, but in those two areas that we're going to get started in mining, we're talking about 210, 220,000 ounces at a grade of about 1.3, 1.2, 1.3 grams per ton, which is considered high grade at this point in the life of Nevada, and lots of high grade still left. But overall, when we look at it, we've put together a chart that shows where we stand linked at Pine Grove in terms of overall grade, and it's right at the top of the chart. So we feel comfortable that we've can come up with higher grade materials as well. We've got lots of area to look at. We think that, again, the grades may even be a little bit higher than we got right now, because there's no, in my mind anyway, there's no reason to think that this thing has been mined out at all. I think that we've got to get at it and really start exploring areas that we already know that there's potential. We've already got some holes in areas that have got gold. We've also done some soil sampling and earthworks in areas that we know that's got gold. And so those are the areas that will get started in terms of expansion or in terms of exploration. But we are going to get mining and then carry on with the exploration as we go. I think it's important to note that the depth potential is significant, and that hasn't even been looked at all over the last bunch of years. Most of the mining that was done in the past was drifts into the side of hills and into the side of these I don't want to call them mountains, but these hills that are around us, and that's where the grade and that's where the production came from. Very little was done at depth, and that's still open to us as well. So we've got all sorts of places to go. It's a matter of, one of the reasons we wanted to get going into production is that that would give us the funding to do the exploration to expand, because right now going out to the market to raise a bunch of money at cheap rates, all that does is dilute the shareholders, and we'd rather do our exploration through cash flow that we come up with ourselves.
Yeah, agreed. That is much smarter. Let's move to Bell Mountain. Can you provide the details about the acquisition of the Bell Mountain project? What stage is that project? Paul, please.
The Bell Mountain is an interesting one for us, simply because we had that project back in 2011, 2012, and we had advanced it to the point that it was moving forward. We had picked it up from a company out of Ontario that had it, and we started doing work on it. It's an interesting project from the point of view where it's located. It's a great location for a mining operation as well. It's up near a little town called Fallon, which is a Navy base, and it's a Top Gun base area for studies on the U.S. Navy. And I think that whole area, we're surrounded, but a deal was done by Nedolitsky's group, who picked up this property after we let it go back in 2014, I guess it was, or 2013. And he's made a deal with the U.S. Navy that we can go in and mine the Bell Mountain, and they're okay with that, even though they're nearby, right? So the Bell Mountain is, as I say, it's in a great location for open pit mining. There's no the impact in the area, other than it's in Nevada. There's no towns of any size nearby. It's a mining area that will be probably more acceptable in terms of to the local population anywhere, that it's in a mining area that can be worked at. So the Bell Mountain, we dropped it. I won't get into the reasons for that. Ron Nedolitsky's group picked it up, did all this work, got it permitted 100%. That property is now permitted 100%, and including the ability to go and mine, that they have approval from the Navy, which is important, because if the U.S. military didn't want us there, we wouldn't be there. But it's even got those agreements with them, so that we can go ahead and start mining. This property is probably got around 100,000 ounces of near surface material, only a 0.7 to, I don't want to get into all sorts of detail, but only 0.7 to 1 stripping ratio, which is low. It's got a grade that's a bit lower than average, but still the gold recovers over 80%, and it's also got a silver component as well that makes it interesting. So Ron took it on, got it all permitted. He is now turning his company into Eros, which is the name of the company, turning it into a holding company. And he and I talked, and he thought it would be a good idea if we took on the Bell Mountain, because he and I have done work in the past on different projects, and Eros would take shares in Lincoln and be part of the holding company. So that's how we acquired it again, and it became part of our step process to take the Bell Mountain into production first, and get cash flow from it, and apply that cash flow to get Pine Grove. And as Joe pointed out earlier, what we're going to do is be permitting Pine Grove as we are developing Bell Mountain into a producer. And when Bell Mountain is nicely in production, we will start construction probably at the Pine Grove to get it going along at the same time.
Yeah, so, sorry, when do you expect to start producing over there?
At the Bell Mountain?
Yeah.
Well, we believe that we could have within a year. If there was the money that was in front of us right now, we could get going. We could probably get this thing into production by this time next year, even through the winter months, which, we're up in high elevations. It gets a little bit cold, but there's 4 different pits that we're looking at to mine from. We're not going to be building a big recovery plant. We're going to have our carbon columns to take the gold and the silver out of the material that we put on a heap leach. Again, it's a simple heap leach operation, and we think we can have that plant up and ready to go with ore being delivered to the heap as early as June of next year.
Okay, can you tell me more about production rate, mine life, some key metrics with future production?
Well, we're looking to produce in the range of about 20,000, just over 20,000 ounces a year once we get going, gold equivalent, and that includes some silver coming into the fray as well. As I say, we've got about 100,000 ounces outlined right now. We think that there's potential to grow that, maybe as much as 150,000 or 200,000 ounces. But what it does is it gives us this easy access to get going into mining, and it throws off this cash that we need, that we want to use to get Pine Grove. Because Pine Grove, let's face it, Pine Grove is the one that we think is going to be the bigger one. It's going to be producing a lot of gold, and with lots of potential to grow that, right? So I think that the Bell Mountain in the short-term basis, and hey, let's rate, no matter where you are in the world right now, in the States, in Canada, or wherever, it takes time to permit. This thing is permitted, except for a couple little white items that we have to go through and make sure they're in good stead. This property is, it takes years to get properties permitted, and this one is now fully permitted. Okay, so that's the neat thing about the Bell Mountain. It will contribute to the growth of, it'll start the growth of Lincoln Gold into the producer that we want.
Yeah, but do you believe, my question better is, can you tell me more about future production costs? I know that for Pine Ridge, you have to update PEA still, so you will have, but do you have some rough numbers of cost of production?
We do. We know we're starting to do has the studies to upgrade. In fact, we're upgrading the PEA. One of the things that we have to do we're traded on the TSX exchange, and they want us to upgrade the PEA, which we're working on right now. And so the numbers, I'm hesitating to give you exact numbers right now because that PEA is now being redone, and that will give us the more finite numbers that we want to find out. But we're, for gold is trading at $2,300, $2,400 an ounce right now. We hope to be producing for about half of that in terms of cost of production, right? So, but that number will be more well known as soon as the PEA gets updated. Okay, Joe, anything else in that regard?
Yeah, please.
I just wanted to add too, back at Pine Grove, we talked a little bit about exploration potential, and in the past, of course, Teck Corporation drilled the entire region, and with Lincoln, pretty all of our drilling's been focused on two patented parcels within that 7 square mile area. It's called the Walker and the Wheeler. And primary reason is because, that was where the initial deposits were, the old timers led us to, but also the ease of permitting on that private land. And we believe there's significant potential that's, been untapped by drilling. And both of these projects have that potential to grow organically, even though we have our current resource base. And again, we're trying to break the mold here. We don't want to just drill every year, raise money, drill. We could be doing that, but we feel at both projects there's enough of a resource that we can get up and running and grow organically with our cash flow.
Mm-hmm. Understood. Okay, let's cover some company metrics, financial, etc. First, share structure. Can you tell me what is the current share structure of the company? How much shares are outstanding, warrants, options? Paul, if you can expand on that, please.
Yeah, I'll try and keep it fairly simple. When we reorganized this company about 2 years ago, we decided that we wanted to take it right back to a minimum of number of shares. So, which we did. We did a 10-to-1 rollback and consolidation, and so even after all this work over the last 1.5 to 2 years, we still only have 14.2 million shares outstanding right now. So it's a very low number compared to most junior miners out there. And we're just finishing up a private placement right now. We will finish that next week, and that will allow us to add another 3.5 million shares and some warrants to that. So bringing us up maybe to 17 and a half. We still don't have the final number. We're just finishing those today and Monday, Tuesday of next week. And we'll have about 17 and a half million shares issued. Fully diluted, we're going to be sitting at about 30 million. And the reason that it bounces up to 30 million is that the deal that we've done with Eros on the acquiring of the Bell Mountain has us paying them 3 million shares upfront. So that would take us to over 20 if you add what we're doing right now to what we have right now, 14 plus the 3.5 or so for the financing we're doing right now. It takes us to 17 and a half, and then 3 million for Eros for us to acquire. And then when we hit 25 million shares, they're allotted another 1.5 million shares. So taking that into consideration, and the fact that we do have some warrants outstanding right now that could add as much as 6 million shares to the overall at 35 to 50 cents, that will bring us up closer to the 30 million stage. And to be honest with you, we started out and we wanted to control the number of shares. We wanted to be closely held because it's important to us to have the people around us to move this company forward. That were with us, that weren't always out for themselves. We didn't want people buying in our stock and 4 months later selling a bunch of it. We wanted the people that were going to stay with us and work with us over the next 2 or 3 years. Now, and so when we get to that 30 million, and we are working right now with a couple of companies on debt financing to take the Bell Mountain into production. And this is debt financing. We're not talking about equity. We hope that we will be able to stay in the 30 to 35 million share range by the time we get Bell Mountain into production. And if we have to put out a few more after that, maybe we can keep it 40 million, 45 million shares. Now, that may be a bit of a dream, but I think we can certainly do it for under 50 million, which is unheard of from mostly of in terms of a small operation having probably a production with the two going of 50,000 ounces a year. So that's where we are right now. So fully diluted right now, if you tie in everything in terms of acquiring the Bell Mountain and the warrants that are outstanding right now, about 30 million.
Okay, that is a very good share structure. And like you said, especially if you stay under 50 million, that will be brilliant. But how much is held by insiders and how much by retail at the moment?
Right now, as we proceed right now, it's about 50-50. It was a bit bigger allocation to the insiders, 75, with this last little funding that we're doing. A lot of it has gone to people we know. We wouldn't call them insiders, but people that are close to us. And that takes us up to the 17, 18 million. I think that overall, though, it's probably in the range when fully diluted, probably in the range of about 50 to 50. Okay, 50% insiders, 50%. And there's a point though that we do want to. The control will have to be released a little bit, and we want to have that stock trading so that people are going to be interested to buy it and know that they can sell it. There'll be liquidity that we don't have right now, but there will be liquidity fairly soon to allow those individuals that are interested to be involved with us, knowing that they can come in and get out at a fair rate. Okay. So.
Yeah, Paul. You mentioned raised. How much have you raised money or plan to raise money, and how was the level of interest for that private placement?
It's been the level of interest has been very, very good. It's a tough market out there right now. Yeah. This is mid 2024. It's probably as tough a market as I've been in for all the years I've been in the business, and it's been a number of years. We've there's for various reasons, starting with COVID way back 5 years ago, I guess now, or whatever it is, and what's followed since then. in the world in terms of setbacks and high interest rates and so on. We probably are feeling the pinch right now to some degree, but we've been well received. We will oversubscribe to this private placement, and we think that we're going to be well positioned then to start talking to the individuals and the companies that are interested in funding us to production through debt means. Okay, and that's a different crowd. That's a different crowd of people. These are the people, the banks or the investment groups that put up money for production. And get paid back either in gold or in gold or in U.S. dollars, and those are the two primary payback means for these investors. Because one of the groups that I worked with going back a bunch of years, they had it written into their agreement, and we're not opposed to that right now. They could choose whether they wanted to have quote payback in gold or they could have payback in U.S. dollars. Yeah. And it worked out well for us. And if we were producing widgets, we couldn't do that, but we're producing gold and silver, so we're capable of doing this, right?
Yeah. And Paul, how much are you targeting to raise this time?
Well, Bell Mountain needs around, and I'm including bonding as well as a few months of pre-production or pre-gold production, if you wish, on the ground or into the bricks, if you wish. Heap leach is not a fast process in terms of getting gold right away, but I think that from our position, we're going to be looking in the range of $20 to $25 million to get everything in place and have some extra kicking around to maybe even do a little work at Pine Grove in terms of finalizing or starting a little bit of exploration as well. So that's what we're looking for right now in that range. Okay, $20-25 million US dollars.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay, what is your current cash position?
Our current cash position, we're with this financing that we're underway right now. I'd rather just hold off until we get that finalized next week to give you a finite answer on that. Okay. But certainly, our second quarter results will be published. Our second quarter is over at the end of June, so we'll be putting those numbers out fairly soon after that as well. So if anybody's interested, they can look at our financials and find that out.
Filings. Okay. What about operational costs? What are your general and administrative expenses? What's your monthly cash burn?
Oh, well, we run very over the years, and Joe can attest to this. We run we're very frugal. We make sure that our every penny is accounted for. Obviously we're a public company. We have to do that anyway because our auditors check on us 100%. But I think what we run is a small office in Vancouver. Joe's got really right now is running out of his house, and we've got a warehouse system down in that area that we use to store stuff for both Bell Mountain and Pine Grove. We haven't mentioned, but those two properties are close together. They're only about an hour and a half drive from each other, and they can use some of the same facilities. One facility could work for both of them. So we don't hire any extra people that we need right now. We're looking very closely as to going forward. We know that we'll have to expand to some degree, but times have been tough, and we work through some tough times, and we watch as you say, I don't want to repeat too much, but we watch every penny that comes in and where it goes, right? So,
yeah,
Joe,
okay.
Can you add to that, Joe? Anything?
I just wanted to add, so we do have a budget to complete the permitting at Pine Grove, and it's just over $800,000. And probably the biggest part of that is we're permitted and bonded to drill up to 5 holes for water wells. We also have a plan to do geotechnical work in the leach pad area and process facilities areas for structural engineering and again to complete the final minor permits that would go with Pine Grove.
Okay, I have a few more, and then I will let you go. Tell me more, Paul. Tell me more about the marketing strategy for your company. How will you tell the story even better?
Well, we've got all sorts of plans ahead of us, and we got a wonderful person working for us right now, Jade Fedor, who's joined us, and she's got us involved in all sorts of social media that we didn't have before. That's making a big difference to getting the word out to everybody.
Yeah, that helps.
It makes a big difference, but I'm finding we just didn't have that capability, and now we do. We've got all sorts of plans to, well, for instance, talking to you and getting the word out that way as well. That we're really pleased with that, and we're planning to do a bit more of that in North America as well as in Europe, as well as in other places that are interested to hear about us. People have to be interested in our property for a number of different reasons, as we talked about. It's in a great location. Where do you want to, if you're going to be mining gold, where do you want to be? You want to be in somewhere safe. And whereabouts is the safest spot in North America, for sure, and probably the world? It's in Nevada. So there's things like that we're getting out. Jade is putting together all sorts of new plans to get the word out, and we're going to not only be on social media, but we'll also be putting out some exciting news as we go along, and as we accomplish certain things over the next bunch of months to get Bell Mountain into production. We'll be issuing news releases on that constantly, right? So not only news releases and basic stuff like that in our quarterly reports, but also through social media.
Yeah, social media is the place that you have to be. Every company has to be today. It's it's the future. I have a question for both of you. Maybe Joe, you start first. Where do you see the company in 5 years from now, Joe, in the terms of projects and operations?
Yeah, well, I think the plan is pretty clear. Get Bell Mountain up and running, and simultaneously permit and get Pine Grove up and running. I believe both of those projects will expand in resource and ounces, and then step out and acquire additional properties and continue to grow the company. And I think, one thing Paul hasn't mentioned, but I think one of our joint goals is to actually pay a small dividend. And we've seen other companies do that, and boy, that really helps with the stock price and the success of the company. And in my experience, my first real mine job out of college in 1982 with Glamis Gold and Chester Miller, we started the Picacho Peak mine, and it was bare bones, and they paid a dividend, and everyone did really well. And there's no reason why you can't recreate that and do that again. So
that's right, Joe. I'm glad you mentioned that. That's really important. And the other thing we should mention to you is that we're traded on the TSX exchange right now, okay? But we are looking to expand that. We look to get at some point in the next little while, probably listed in a stronger U.S. exchange, that we can be more active in the States. And hey, this is where we're working. This is where our properties are. This is where we plan to expand. Let's get the folks down there in the States a bit more involved in being shareholders. We've got some good shareholders already in the U.S. We've got some good ones in Germany. We've got good ones in Swiss and Canada, and then also, believe it, in Hong Kong. We've got interest from people in Hong Kong. But we're really looking forward to expanding in those areas as well. So
yeah, exciting times ahead. So you will have uplist, possible dividend. So definitely exciting times ahead. I would like to ask you when can investors expect in the terms of the future news flow from the company, Paul?
I'm sorry, you broke up there a little bit.
What and when can investors expect in the terms of the future news flow?
Oh, we've got sorry about that. It just broke up for a second. All sorts of news that we're planning. We've had intermittent issues of news over the last year and a half. We're planning now to do at least a couple of major announcements every month as we progress through Bell Mountain into Pine Grove and so on, and also talk about our future and where we want to go. So yeah, no, we've got some really and very good plans in terms of getting news flow out. I think the one thing we want to mention as well before we shut down here is that we're looking to add a few more at least a couple more directors. We're also looking around for younger people. Let's face it, Joe and I have been at it for a bunch of years. We enjoy it. We want to be around some more, but at the end of the day, we all get older, and it's tough to find young people that are willing to be involved in the mining industry. But we've got our eyes open, and we hope to make our company stronger with the younger crowd coming in too. So.
Okay, Joe mentioned one interesting thing, and that is the land expansion. What is your M&A strategy for the company? Will you stake more land, buy more land, maybe buy companies? What's your take on M&A?
Joe, if you want to talk on that for a bit, I can add a bit.
Well, I think, there are lots of opportunities out there. And, we mentioned earlier with this, increase in gold price, I think exceeding inflation, and our model of looking at smaller projects, I think that there's lots of opportunities out there. And in Nevada, we're an elephant country, and it's interesting. My past experience in the Bureau of Mining, there are a number of mine projects that are fully permitted, and they never become a mine. And so there shouldn't let the cat out of the bag too much, but there are other properties out there that I think it just takes somebody to push them over the edge and put them into production. And I think once we get these two going, you get a little cash flow behind you. The sky's the limit, maybe.
Final question: how can investors reach out to you?
Well, very quickly, a whole bunch of ways. Let's certainly our website, LincolnMining.com, is available, or to anybody that wants to look into some detail. They can reach us when they go to that website. They can find out how to contact us by phone or by email or whatever. We're very open about responding to people in terms of what we're trying to do, and so. I think that's a good start. If somebody's interested, go online, look at us up. You can find out where we're located and who the people are, and there's phone numbers and there's email addresses and so on. So I think that's a good place to get started on anyway.
Okay, Paul, Joe, thank you both for coming to my show. It was a great chat as I expected, and I really, really wish you luck with both of your projects, and hope to have you in my show soon again. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.